Bottled water is often seen as the safer choice, but what's actually inside it might surprise you. For many people, grabbing a bottle feels like a simple upgrade. It's sealed, portable, and marketed as clean and reliable. Compared to tap water, it seems like the safer bet, but the reality is not always that straightforward. Most bottled water comes from one of two sources: natural sources like springs, or municipal supplies, basically the same type of water that comes from your tap. The difference is what happens after it's collected. In some cases, bottled water is filtered, treated, or adjusted before it's packaged. In others, it's minimally processed. The label might give you a general idea, but it rarely tells the full story, and that's where confusion starts. Many people assume bottled water goes through stricter controls than tap water. But regulations can vary depending on the region and the type of water being sold. In some situations, the standards are similar. In others, monitoring happens less frequently than people expect. This doesn't automatically make bottled water unsafe, but it does mean it's not always as controlled as it appears. Another factor to consider is storage. Water in bottles can sit for long periods on shelves, in warehouses, or in transport. During that time, environmental conditions like heat and light can affect the material of the bottle. Most plastic bottles are made from materials designed to be stable, but over time, small amounts of substances from the plastic can transfer into the water. These are often present in very low levels, but they raise questions for people who rely on bottled water daily. Then there's the issue of consistency. Unlike a fixed home system, bottled water comes from different batches, sources, and processes. That means one bottle may not be exactly the same as another, even within the same brand. For someone drinking it occasionally, this may not matter much. But for long-term use, consistency becomes more important. There's also the cost factor. Bottled water is convenient, but it adds up. Buying water regularly can become a significant expense over time. And beyond the financial side, there's the practical aspect of storage and handling. You have to carry it, store it, and manage the waste. This leads many people to believe that bottled water is a complete solution, but when you look closer, it's more of a trade-off. You're exchanging one set of uncertainties for another. Instead of wondering about pipes and infrastructure, you're relying on packaging, storage conditions, and production processes you don't directly control. And that brings us to a key question: is bottled water really giving you more control or just a different kind of distance from the source? To answer that, it helps to understand what's actually inside. At its core, bottled water is still water with minerals, dissolved substances, and sometimes trace elements depending on the source. Some brands add minerals for taste. Others remove certain elements through filtration. In most cases, it meets safety guidelines. But like tap water, it can still contain small amounts of substances that are considered acceptable within regulatory limits. The difference is that you have less visibility into the process. You can't see how long it's been stored, you don't know the exact conditions it was exposed to, and you don't have control over how it was handled before it reached you. So while it feels like a safer option, it doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It simply shifts it. Because of this, more people are starting to rethink how they approach drinking water. Instead of relying entirely on bottled products, they're looking for ways to improve water quality closer to home. This might include testing their tap water to understand its baseline condition. It could involve using filtration systems designed to target specific contaminants. Or it might mean exploring alternative methods that allow for more direct control over water properties. One concept that often comes up in this context is water ionization, commonly associated with alkaline water. The idea is to adjust certain characteristics of water through a controlled process. It's important to stay balanced here. Not all claims around water improvements are supported equally, and results can vary, but the broader trend is clear. People want transparency. They want to understand what they're drinking, not just trust a label, and that leads to the key insight: bottled water doesn't remove uncertainty. It replaces one unknown with another. When you rely entirely on pre-packaged water, you're still dependent on systems you can't see or control. But when you start paying attention to your water at home, you gain visibility. You can test it, you can adjust it, you can make decisions based on your own conditions, not just assumptions. And that shift from passive consumption to active understanding is where real confidence comes from. So, what's really inside bottled water? Water, minerals, and sometimes trace elements, but also variables you don't always think about, like storage conditions, material interactions, and process differences. None of this means bottled water is inherently bad. It means it's not a complete answer. Like most things, it's one option among many, and the more you understand those options, the better choices you can make. If you've been relying on bottled water as your main solution, it might be worth taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, because when you understand where your water comes from and what affects it, you're in a better position to decide what works for you. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more clear and practical breakdowns like this, and if you want to explore how some people are approaching water quality at home in a more structured way, there's a resource in the description that outlines one of these approaches step by step. It can give you a better sense of what's involved and whether it's a good fit for your situation.